It is a Friday, and that means it's another installment of the Orange and Blue Report. He's orange, I'm blue. He's Jeff White, Director of News Content, and I'm Dave Koehn, Director of Broadcasting and Voice of the Cavaliers, Director of News Content for VirginiaSports.com. More specifically, we're glad to have you with us as we take a look at the week ahead. Virginia getting set to play its third game as many weeks at home here at Scott Stadium to open the 2017 schedule. And, Jeff, it's a chance with UConn coming to town to avenge, well, what was a game that Virginia coaches and players would like to forget, but something tells me they haven't.
No, I think anybody who was part of this team last year will remember that game as a squandered opportunity. Virginia dominated for much of the game, could not close the deal at the end for a variety of reasons, including special teams problems, and went away with a really painful loss in what easily could have been Bronco Mendenhall's first win as Virginia's coach.
Yeah, special teams problems last year in this game, special teams problems last week. So you could almost call this a little bit of a redemption game coming up with Virginia trying to get back on track after having lost to Indiana last week and then having lost to UConn a year ago. So here we go. Let's dive in. We'll take a look at the defense to start things off for this UConn Husky team as the Huskies bring an entirely new look to both sides of the ball with a new head coach, new coordinators on both sides of the football as we peer at the UConn defense to start things off.
Dave, here's the defense you were talking about. It's a 3-3-5, which is a scheme that Bronco Mendenhall has coached in. He ran it with his mentor, Rocky Long, when they were at New Mexico. Now Coach Long is at San Diego State, but he will have an idea about how to attack this.
Yeah, you have to think so. And for UConn, it's all about deception, trying to disguise where their blitzers are coming from. And you can see crossing linebackers here. It's all about knowing where that pressure is coming from for Virginia's offensive line as they take on this Husky defensive attack under Billy Crocker. He's in his first year from Villanova. But again, you can see the two linebackers, where they're twisting, where they're attacking the quarterback from. And so it is incumbent on Virginia's offensive line to keep Kurt Benkert on his feet.
Dave, one of the major points of emphasis for the Virginia offense this week is getting the running game going. It was fairly effective in the opener against William & Mary, but really struggled against Indiana because the holes just weren't there. There was a 12-yard touchdown run by Jordan Ellis, which was the high point of the day for the running team. And it's going to be hard for this offense to really operate the way it wants to if it can't run the ball effectively and consistently.
55 yards is not going to cut it this week as Virginia will try to get those numbers bumped up. It makes things a lot easier, a lot less predictable for that matter from Virginia's offense to get a couple of those deep balls working and get that ground game going. That's going to be a big part of the puzzle for Virginia to win this game and get that offense working the way they want to. All right, well, that's not the only part Virginia's going to be focusing in on. Far from it. Let's take a look at the other side of the ball. From Virginia's perspective, going into this matchup against UConn, well, it is a UConn team that, not surprisingly, likes to go fast. Why do I say not surprisingly? Because this is the second consecutive week Virginia's had to deal with that, having just gone through it against an Indiana team that takes very little time between snaps. However, the difference, that was about year 7 in that offense for Indiana. This game for UConn, well, it's only their second game they've played in this system that was brought in by Coach Randy Edsall and his new offensive coordinator out of Auburn.
And UConn's in a very unusual situation to begin with. It played its first game of the season August 31st. It has not played since. The game it was supposed to play last weekend was canceled because of the hurricanes in Florida. It's hard to predict from Virginia's perspective what UConn's going to do.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword for sure. For UConn, one of the interesting components is they really haven't shown their hand in terms of who their quarterback they'll really rely on in this game is. They bring in a new quarterback, a transfer, David Pindell. He was the starting quarterback, earned the starting job over the fall camp. However, struggled to get anything going with much in the way of productivity in their first game of the season. That meant Bryant Sheriff stepped into the game, led his team back from a 20-7 deficit. He's expected to be the starter in this game, but with Pindell being a little bit more mobile, you don't know quite what you're going to get. Regardless of who it is at quarterback, for UConn, they will have options. And that is the name of the game for the Huskies, much the same as it was for Indiana last week. So much of the way this offense operates is that quarterback being able to read the defense. He has the option. Do you hand off right here? Watching where that defense is from Virginia's perspective. On this occasion, the handoff to the opposite side, but the quarterback does not necessarily have to give in that situation. He's got screen options, he's got a flare option, or of course, the quarterback run, and that's been a problem for Virginia in the first 2 weeks.
There have been more good moments than bad for this defense through the first 2 games, but one area where it struggled, I think it's fair to say, is against running quarterbacks. William & Mary did almost all of its damage with the quarterback running. And when Indiana switched quarterbacks last weekend, they had a lot of success, and they actually was kind of the pivotal part of the game, and they got their 2 touchdowns and build a sizable lead. I don't think Virginia will be caught off guard by this, but it has to do a better job defending it.
Well, the bottom line is the Cavaliers have some experience against that with 2 games in the books. They'll look to try to get things going again this weekend with the UConn Huskies coming to town, learn from past mistakes, continue what was working well for the Hoos in weeks 1 and 2. Should be a good game on Saturday. It's an early start time, a 12 noon kickoff at Scott Stadium. We hope to see you there. For Jeff White, I'm Dave Koehn. Thanks for tuning in.